Hello and welcome to the second part of me reading When We Were Very Young by A. Milne. And if you've just run across this and you're wondering, then I suggest you go and find part one, where you'll find me talking about the poems and a little bit about A. Milne. To repeat, this is not all the poems. I'm making my selections. This is live. You're not seeing it live, obviously, but I am recording it live. No edits, no retakes, so any mistakes will be dealt with as we go along. So this is part two of When We Were Very Young by A. Milne. Spring morning. Where am I going? I don't quite know. Down to the stream where the kingcups grow. Up to the hill where the pine trees blow. Anywhere, anywhere, I don't know. Where am I going? The clouds sail by, little ones, baby ones, over the sky. Where am I going? The shadows pass, little ones, baby ones, over the grass. If you were a cloud and sailed up there, you'd sail on water as blue as air. And you'd see me here in the fields and say, "Doesn't the sky look green today?" Where am I going? The high rooks call, "It's awful fun to be born at all." Where am I going? The ringdoves coo, "We do have beautiful things to do." If you were a bird and lived on high, you'd lean on the wind when the wind came by. You'd say to the wind when it took you away, "That's where I wanted to go to today." Where am I going? I don't quite know. What does it matter where people go? Down to the wood where the bluebells grow. Anywhere, anywhere, I don't know. The Three Foxes. Once upon a time there were three little foxes who didn't wear stockings and they didn't wear sockses, but they all had handkerchiefs to blow their noses, and they kept their handkerchiefs in cardboard boxes. They lived in the forest in three little houses, and they didn't wear coats and they didn't wear trousers. They ran through the woods on their little bare tootsies, and they played touch last with a family of mousies. They didn't go shopping in the high street shopses, but caught what they wanted in the woods and the copses. They all went fishing and they caught three wormses. They went out hunting and they caught three wopses. They went to a fair and they all won prizes, three plum puddingses and three mince pieses. They rode on elephants and swang on swingses, and hit three coconuts at coconut shies. That's all that I know of the three little foxes who kept their handkerchiefs in cardboard boxes. But they didn't wear coats and they didn't wear trousers, and they didn't wear stockings and they didn't wear sockses. Politeness. If people ask me, I always tell them, "Quite well, thank you, I'm very glad to say." If people ask me, I always answer, "Quite well, thank you, how are you today?" I always answer, I always tell them, if they ask me, politely. But sometimes I wish they wouldn't. Rice pudding. What is the matter with Mary Jane? She's crying with all her might and main, and she won't eat her dinner. Rice pudding again? What is the matter with Mary Jane? What is the matter with Mary Jane? I've promised her dolls and a daisy chain and a book about animals, all in vain. What is the matter with Mary Jane? What is the matter with Mary Jane? I promised her sweets and a ride in the train, and I begged her to stop for a bit and explain. What is the matter with Mary Jane? What is the matter with Mary Jane? She's perfectly well, and she hasn't a pain, and it's lovely rice pudding for dinner again. What is the matter with Mary Jane? The King's Breakfast. The king asked the queen, and the queen asked the dairymaid, "Could we have some butter for the royal slice of bread?" The queen asked the dairymaid. The dairymaid said, Certainly, I'll go and tell the cow now before she goes to bed. The dairymaid she curtsied and went and told the Alderney. Don't forget the butter for the royal slice of bread. The Alderney said sleepily, You'd better tell His Majesty that many people nowadays like marmalade instead. The dairymaid said, Fancy, and went to Her Majesty. She curtsied to the Queen, and she turned a little red. Excuse me, Your Majesty, for taking of the liberty, but marmalade is tasty, if it's very thickly spread. The Queen said, Oh, and went to His Majesty. Talking of the butter for the royal slice of bread, many people think that marmalade is nicer. Would you like to try a little marmalade instead? The King said, Bother. And then he said, Oh, dearie me. The King sobbed, Oh, dearie me, and went back to bed. Nobody, he whimpered, could call me a fussy man. I only want a little bit of butter for my bread. The Queen said, There, there, and went to the dairymaid. The dairymaid said, There, there, and went to the shed. The cow said, There, there, I didn't really mean it. Here's milk for his porringer and butter for his bread. The Queen took the butter and brought it to His Majesty. The King said, Butter, eh? And bounced out of bed. Nobody, he said, as he kissed her tenderly. Nobody, he said, as he slid down the banisters. Nobody, my darling, could call me a fussy man, but I do like a little bit of butter to me bread. The Dormouse and the Doctor. There once was a dormouse who lived in a bed of delphiniums blue and geraniums red, and all the day long he'd a wonderful view of geraniums red and delphiniums blue. A doctor came hurrying round, and he said, Tut, tut, I'm sorry to find you in bed. Just say 99, while I look at your chest. Don't you find that chrysanthemums answer the best? The Dormouse looked round at the view and replied, when he'd said 99, that he'd tried and he'd tried. Much the most answering things that he knew were geraniums red and delphiniums blue. The doctor stood frowning and shaking his head, and he took up his shiny silk hat, and he said, What the patient requires is a change, and he went to see some chrysanthemum people in Kent. The Dormouse lay there, and he gazed at the view of geraniums red and delphiniums blue, and he knew there was nothing he wanted instead of delphiniums blue and geraniums red. The doctor came back, and to show what he meant, he had brought some chrysanthemum cuttings from Kent. Now these, he remarked, give a much better view than geraniums red or delphiniums blue. They took out their spades, and they dug up the bed of delphiniums blue and geraniums red, and they planted chrysanthemums, yellow and white. And now, said the doctor, we'll soon have you right. The Dormouse looked out, and he said with a sigh, I suppose all these people know better than I. It was silly, perhaps, but I did like the view of geraniums red and delphiniums blue. The doctor came round and examined his chest, and ordered him nourishment, tonics, and rest. How very effective, he said, as he shook the thermometer, all these chrysanthemums look. The Dormouse turned over to shut out the sight of the endless chrysanthemums, yellow and white. How lovely, he thought, to be back in a bed of delphiniums blue and geraniums red. The doctor said, Tut, it's another attack, and ordered him milk and massage of the back and freedom from worry and drives in a car, and murmured, How sweet your chrysanthemums are. The Dormouse lay there with his paws to his eyes, and imagined himself such a pleasant surprise. I'll pretend the chrysanthemums turn to a bed of delphiniums blue and geraniums red. The doctor next morning was rubbing his hands and saying, "There's nobody quite understands these cases as I do. The cure has begun. How fresh the chrysanthemums look in the sun." The Dormouse lay happy. His eyes were so tight he could see no chrysanthemums, yellow or white, and all that he felt at the back of his head were delphiniums, blue, and geraniums, red. And that is the reason, Aunt Emily said, if a dormouse gets in a chrysanthemum bed, you will find, so Aunt Emily says, that he lies fast asleep on his front, with his paws to his eyes. And a poem that will be familiar to any self-respecting fan of the Muppets. We might wait a moment to hear this without motorbike accompaniment. Go on. No, never mind. This is Halfway Down. Halfway down the stairs is a stair where I sit. There isn't any other stair quite like it. I'm not at the bottom, I'm not at the top. So this is the stair where I always stop. Halfway up the stairs isn't up and isn't down. It isn't in the nursery, it isn't in the town. And all sorts of funny thoughts run round my head. It isn't really anywhere. It's somewhere else instead. Before tea. Emmeline has not been seen for more than a week. She slipped between the two tall trees at the end of the green. We all went after her. "Emmeline! Emmeline! I only said that your hands weren't clean." We went to the trees at the end of the green, but Emmeline was not to be seen. Emmeline came slipping between the two tall trees at the end of the green. We all ran up to her. "Emmeline, where have you been? Where have you been? Why, it's more than a week." And Emmeline said, "Sillies, I went and saw the Queen. She says my hands are perfectly clean." Teddy bear. A bear, however hard he tries, grows tubby without exercise. Our teddy bear is short and fat, which is not to be wondered at. He gets what exercise he can by falling off the ottoman, but generally seems to lack the energy to clamber back. Now, tubbiness is just the thing which gets a fellow wondering, and Teddy worried lots about the fact that he was rather stout. He thought, "If only I were thin. And how does anyone begin?" He thought, "It really isn't fair to grudge me exercise and air." For many weeks he pressed in vain his nose against the window pane, and envied those who walked about reducing their unwanted stout. None of the people he could see is quite, he said, as fat as me. Then, with a still more moving sigh, "I mean," he said, "as fat as I." Now Teddy, as was only right, slept in the ottoman at night, and with him crowded in as well more animals than I can tell. Not only these, but books and things, such as a kind relation brings. Old tales of once upon a time, and history retold in rhyme. One night it happened that he took a peep at an old picture book, wherein he came across by chance the picture of a king of France, a stoutish man, and down below these words: "King Louis so-and-so, nicknamed the Handsome." There he sat, and think of it, the man was fat. Our bear rejoiced like anything to read about this famous king, nicknamed the Handsome. There he sat, and certainly the man was fat, nicknamed the Handsome. Not a doubt, the man was definitely stout. Why then a bear for all his tub might yet be named the handsome cub. Might yet be named. Or did he mean that years ago he might have been? For now he felt a slight misgiving. Is Louis so-and-so still living? Fashions in beauty have a way of altering from day to day. Is handsome Louis with us yet? Unfortunately, I forget. Next morning, nose to window pane, the doubt occurred to him again. One question hammered in his head. Is he alive, or is he dead? Thus, nose to pane, he pondered, but the lattice window, loosely shut, swung open. With one startled "Oh!" our Teddy disappeared below. There happened to be passing by a plump man with a twinkling eye, who, seeing Teddy in the street, raised him politely to his feet, and murmured kindly in his ear soft words of comfort and of cheer. "Well, well, allow me, not at all. Oh, tut, tut, a very nasty fall." Our Teddy answered not a word. It's doubtful if he even heard. Our bear could only look and look. The stout man in the picture book, the handsome king. Could this be he, this man of adiposity? Impossible, he thought, but still, no harm in asking. Yes, I will. Are you, he said, by any chance, His Majesty the King of France? The other answered, I am that, bowed stiffly, and removed his hat, and then said, Excuse me, with an air, but is it Mr. Edward Bear? And Teddy, bending very low, replied politely, Even so. They stood beneath the window there, the king and Mr. Edward Bear, and handsome, if a trifle fat, talked carelessly of this and that. Then said His Majesty, Well, well, I must get on, and rang the bell. Your bear, I think. He smiled. Good day, and turned and went upon his way. A bear, however hard he tries, grows tubby without exercise. Our teddy bear is short and fat, which is not to be wondered at. But do you think it bothers him, it worries him, to know that he is far from slim? No, just the other way about. He's proud of being short and stout. The Alchemist. There lives an old man at the top of the street, and the end of his beard reaches down to his feet, and he's just the one person I'm longing to meet. I think that he sounds so exciting, for he talks all day to his tortoise-shell cat, and he asks about this and explains about that. And at night he puts on a big wide-awake hat and sits in the writing room, writing. He has worked all his life, and he's terribly old, at a wonderful spell which says, Lo and behold, your nursery fender is gold, and it's gold, or the tongs, or the rod for the curtain. But somehow he hasn't got hold of it quite, or the liquid you pour on it first isn't right, so that's why he works on it, night after night, till he knows he can do it for certain. And finally, Vespers. Little boy kneels at the foot of the bed, droops on the little hand's little gold head. Hush, hush, whisper who dares, Christopher Robin is saying his prayers. God bless Mummy. I know that's right. Wasn't it fun in the bath tonight? The cold's so cold and the hot's so hot. Oh, God bless Daddy. I quite forgot. If I open my fingers a little bit more, I can see Nanny's dressing gown on the door. It's a beautiful blue, but it hasn't a hood. Oh, God bless Nanny, and make her good. Mine has a hood, and I lie in bed and pull the hood right over my head, and I shut my eyes and I curl up small, and nobody knows I'm there at all. Oh, thank you, God, for a lovely day. And what was the other I had to say? I said bless Daddy, so what can it be? Oh, now I remember it. God bless me. Little boy kneels at the foot of the bed, droops on the little hand's little gold head. Hush, hush, whisper, who dares? Christopher Robin is saying his prayers. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening.